Garry Newman, the creator of Garry's Mod and founder of Facepunch Studios, behind such titles as Gmod and Rust, did an AMA back in May of 2013. User Xanthem asked Garry, quote, "Why Garry's Mod? It's essentially the most generic title possible. It's like if George Lucas had called Star Wars George's movie." Garry replied, quote, "I know, it's terrible. It happened by accident, really, because I didn't expect it to become a big thing. I guess it has the advantage of lowering everybody's expectations." Another Reddit user, Swashrump, followed up, quote, "Well, if you could give it a different title, what would it be?" To which Garry responded, again, with Sandbox, or something. The public has known of Garry Newman and Facepunch's spiritual successor to Gmod for some time now, officially being announced back in September of 2017, Sandbox, a title attempting to take the many features and systems that created the perpetual creativity craze that is Gmod and bring it up to the standards of today, free of source engine limitations, an engine nearly 20 years old with the backbone dating back to Quake. Throughout the game's entire known development cycle, Garry Newman was vocal about his wants to use Source 2, however, and attempted to write all systems to be platform agnostic, just in case Valve were to follow up on their years-old word and finally release these Source 2 development tools. To quickly recap, at the 2015 Games Developers Conference, along with the Vive, Robot Repair, Steam Boxes, Steam Link, the Steam Controller, SteamOS, and other Steam-related living room movements, Valve's real manager, Eric Johnson, said Source 2 would be free, released to all developers, at least according to Rock Paper Shotgun. Quote, "Valve's sudden entry into the engine race with an official announcement of Source 2 seems to have put them right in front alongside frenzied rivals Unity and Unreal. Meeting with studio bigwig Eric Johnson today, I learned that when they say Source 2 is free, they mean it. Unlike Unity's much lowered subscription rates for larger teams and Epic's revenue cut off of successful projects, Valve won't be asking for any money at all. Well, sort of. They just require the game to be launched on Steam, along with anywhere else you may want to sell it," end quote. Obviously, this never happened, and even with the release of Half-Life Alyx, the first true Source 2 title, the full Source 2 SDK is nowhere to be seen. According to industry insiders, it's due to how disorganized the tools have become to quickly push Half-Life Alyx, which again squashed any hopes of that full toolset. However, confirmation came in that Valve shared their Source 2 repository with Garry for use on whatever project he wanted, which calls into question all the work that was done on Sandbox over 3 years. Work that, surprisingly, wasn't done predominantly by Garry. On September 9th, 2015, in an interview with PC Games N, in response to a question regarding a Gmod price hike with the release of version 15 of Gmod, Garry states, quote, "We wouldn't raise the price now. I mean, we're kind of working on a sequel, so it would be stupid to raise the price, really. It's early days. We're looking at having more VR stuff in it. That's kind of the big point of it. And it won't be called Garry's Mod 2. 2 years later, almost to the day, Facepunch Studios officially announces Sandbox. Quote, "Our intention with Sandbox is to take a powerful game engine, UE4 right now, and build a hot-loading C# layer on top of it. The idea being that you'll never have to touch C++. You never have to wait for things to compile. You never have to close the game when developing. We're hoping that what we're making is engine agnostic. Our goal was to build this on top of Source 2, but that seems unlikely now, as it's doubtful that would have any actual benefit over what we're currently doing," end quote. This was followed by a month of frequent developer blogs on the creations of the systems for this title. Then a stray blog post in June of 2018, then silence. In these blogs, Facepunch describes the process of creating a Gmod style of Sandbox in an entirely different, yet far more modern engine, Unreal Engine 4, discussing the backend language being C#, UI, assets, maps, and beta access. It's around this time Garry has an interview with PC Gamer discussing whether or not Sandbox is really Gmod 2. Quote, "So this might be a bit complicated. There's a lot of this, is this Garry's Mod 2? And the honest answer is maybe, but nowhere near that yet. We've basically built our own game engine on top of Unreal Engine 4. We're really using UE4 for its core features, rendering, networking, physics. It's all done in an engine-agnostic way. We can lift our systems off and put it on the source engine. It actually started on the source engine. It's too early to say whether this will turn into a spiritual successor of Garry's Mod or whether it'll even be released as a moddable platform. We might use it internally to make our own games. But at the moment, we're enjoying playing around with it, and that's enough for right now," end quote. The dev blogs reveal just how early the project was, with things as simple as assets being rebuilt from the ground up. However, hindsight has shown that, although Garry was the public face of the project, the majority of the work being done on Sandbox between 2017 and 2019 was headed by Layla, another programmer working under Garry at FacePunch. The work split was only known due to just how frequently the developers in question, Layla, would post images and videos of the in-dev game on the Sandbox Discord. Devlogs ceased in June of 2018 and the Discord server was deleted in 2019. Sandbox went completely silent until Garry tweeted about a desire to work on Gmod 2. That tweet coming less than a month following the release of Half-Life Alyx. In the weeks following, many speculated, many reported on the tweet, yet no concrete information on Sandbox, Gmod, Source 2, or anything FacePunch was doing on these fronts were available. Until April 27th of 2020, when the first devlog for Sandbox was published in nearly 2 years, titled Back Online. To recap with direct quotes, so you may have noticed that we haven't been doing anything on Sandbox for something like a couple of years. We had a bit of a shakeup in the company last year, and I decided to get everyone to focus mainly on Rust and Garry's Mod. I killed a lot of prototype projects, which included Sandbox. Of course, being killed is only temporary, and the potential was always there to resume work on it. About a month back, I woke Sandbox up and started poking around with it. Everyone else is either working on Rust or Garry's Mod, so I'm taking the opportunity to work on it as my own for a while. I feel like for me, it's important that I know how every piece of code works. What it does, why it does it, what it doesn't do. It means I can work faster and get done what I need to get done. I'm sure a lot of you guys will be glad to hear that we're not on Unreal Engine 4 anymore. We're currently awaiting access to Source 2, but we don't know for sure when that will be. Because, you know, Valve time, etc. Right now, as an intermediary, I'm getting stuff working on Source 1. Since CSGO uses some Source 2 tech, I can start binding some of that up, and it shouldn't be a total waste of time. I'll keep you updated, end quote. 2 more devlogs released through the summer, both discussing FacePunch and specifically Garry's lusting for Source 2, even in an absence of any direct official communication with Valve software. This was only months off of Valve's largest software launch in nearly a decade, in a pandemic no less, and all reports put the majority of Valve taking it easy from home for the time being, so any legitimate conversations on Source 2 acquisition seemed far-fetched at best. Except it happened. On the 21st of September 2020, Garry made a commit to the public Sandbox dev blog, effectively internal patch notes for the title, yet hosted on a public Sandbox website, a neat touch for transparency. The commit followed a dev deletion of the previous dev commit log, all taking place in a combination of CSGO's Source 1, Source 2 amalgam and UE4. This fresh start commit was labeled as such, quote, initial commit, end quote, followed by Source 2's compile structure. Garry had received some form of the Source 2 engine, however, it was unknown just how much Garry was able to get. Speculation and discussion takes place in the community, however, this commit was quickly made private as its publication was done in mistake. But the community was already aware and likely bombarding FacePunch employees with questions. So, on October 1st, Garry started discussing the engine, the newly found direction of Sandbox now that the true engine was in place, as well as some interesting information on Source 2 in general. Some quotes from Garry from this week include, quote, I want VR support, but I need to explore more to see what that looks like. I don't know if we can turn VR on halfway through a game. I don't know if we're gonna have a separate EXE or something. I don't know if all the shaders need VR counterparts. The ideal situation is that we allow a mixed VR and non-VR game. We're probably going to modify Hammer a bit so it doesn't use the content folder resource system. My impression was that they gave me access because I didn't need babysitting and I didn't mind if it was a clusterfuck. The repo is Alyx and is 2 terabytes of bullshit. Side note, I actually talked to Garry and it's closer to 1.3 terabytes. Quote, time for us to shut up now. VNN is sniffing around. Tyler, VNN, would shit himself if he saw all the top secret games mentioned in the secret source code. All I'm gonna say is, TF2, but with all the characters are naked anime. That's all I can say. When asked directly, Garry stated this with regards to Gmod and VR specifically. Quote, no, it's not the goal, but it's a big gaping hole in Garry's mod that we never filled. We looked at pushing a Gmod promotion just before Half-Life Alyx came out to get people on VR, but the installation process was too much to ask people to do, including the manual downloading of binaries. Garry is actually talking about Catsy's VR Garry's mod. It's a phenomenal phenomenal mod, but it does include manual installation of binaries. Garry then expressed interest in getting a Source 2 Sandbox dev blog out as soon as possible, as well as getting early access to, quote, people who make significant Gmod content or are proficient in other ways, like making Source 2 maps. For now, Sandbox is in incredibly early days, now that Garry has access to the engine he wanted to work on since the first days of a Gmod successor. Do not expect anything playable in the hands of the public anytime soon, and also, do not expect this to be a true Garry's Mod replacement. Garry's Mod has and continues to be a cultural touchstone in our communities, and replacing its legacy, let alone topping it, is a monumental task, and one that I feel Garry is aware of. For the time being, it seems that Garry is very happy to be able to experiment with the new generation of tools, assets, and feature sets that Valve finally had the teamwork to complete. Where it goes from here is unknown and completely up to Garry, a person who has started and stopped prototypes many times before. With over a terabyte of raw content from Valve hiding in the disorganized nightmare that is the Source 2 repo, I'm sure we would likely learn a lot about Valve's 10-year journey to Half-Life Alyx, likely more than Jeff was willing to tell us. Again though, just remember, quote, it's early as fuck, so I don't want people getting too excited. I'm making good progress though, end quote. I want to send an enormous thank you to Craze, a smaller YouTuber out there that has been doing very frequent and very well-made reporting on the Sandbox project for years. He actually helped me write this script, helped me do the outline, helped me gather up information, helped me gather up the assets you've been looking for. So if you want to get more up-to-date and more frequent Sandbox news, go subscribe to Craze. We will be talking about Sandbox when there is more to talk about on this channel, so get subscribed if you are interested. If you have any questions for me, if you want to learn anything or you just want to talk, my DMs on both Twitter and Discord are always open. Just make sure that you follow me on that Twitter and join my Discord server, all down in the description below. If you want to watch these videos early and get your name in the credits, check out my Patreon page down in the description below, where you can support me financially, or you can just buy some merch. We have this missing texture mask, this speculation t-shirt, and this info player start t-shirt that I really like. Go check it out down in the description below. Anyways, I'm Tyler McVicker. This is Valve News Network. Have a good day. Adios.